Well, the four of us, excluding James, we all met when we were really, really young. Ryan and I started playing together when we were about 10 or 11. And then I met Jesse and Mickey when I was 12.
Maroon 5 are a modern phenomenon, a band with a heart, a soul, and a pioneering vision of musicality that transcends easy categorization and sets them apart from their contemporaries in today's music scene. There's nobody else around with their overwhelming invention, inspiration, and influence. Many lesser but higher profile luminaries enjoy a level of acclaim way out of sync with their inherent competence, but every plaudit thrown in Maroon 5's direction comes completely deservedly. Eschewing modern fashion, musical orthodoxy and facile trend guessing, this quite remarkable outfit have captured the hearts and minds of fans all over the world with a superior blend of pathos, sunny optimism, languid R&B, powerhouse rock and pop, and memorable songwriting. There's no artifice about what they do, no contrived image, no desperate bandwagon jumping, no commercial slavery. They operate within their own musical sphere, and whilst they do acknowledge the weighty influence of classic soul greats such as Stevie Wonder on their sound, this is assimilated so seamlessly and effortlessly, and with such obvious love and affection, that we just lie back and congratulate them for their pristine taste and keen intelligence. They belong to that rare breed, the true white soul group. Diligent, gifted, and professional from the start, they've built upon the unforeseen success generated by a change of direction to craft an impressive series of smash hit singles and a landmark album that seems destined to stand the test of all those all-time favourite record polls. Much more than a transient flavour of the month act, Maroon 5 have it in them to establish a catalogue of songs fit to share shelf space with any of the great artists of the late 20th century and beyond. The story of Maroon 5's ascendancy is one of those hard work doesn't pay off then does sagas. Having resigned themselves to slogging across the USA's bar rooms, hawking their road-hewn brand of 70s-style riff rock to diminishing returns, they had a rethink, sought out new inspiration, and reinvented themselves as soul rock classicists par excellence. In the meantime, this caught the eye of the music industry in general, and a new wave of fans eager to sample more of this blue-eyed soul magic. While some critics have carped that Maroon 5 are a band enthralled to classic rock and soul's heritage, the very novelty of their unique fusion of these elements with a 21st century sensibility renders such criticism superfluous. Sure, there are ghosts of lots of classic artists from pop's history littered across many of the band's tracks, but these are sprinkled liberally with a wink here and a sly nod there, as if to challenge anyone else to better this unique, devastating hybrid sound. They're confident of their own abilities and don't believe in hiding the fact. Maroon 5 came together at a specific time and place, and this fortuitous encounter has produced some of the most thrilling, sublime and exciting rock and pop records ever, demonstrating their ability to pen tunes that are both magical and, on occasion, almost transcendental. When miracles happen, it seems churlish to ask how and why. The wise person is just grateful they are around to witness the event and benefit from the enrichment and blessings it brings into their lives. And on the music created by these hugely talented guys, there is indeed a blessing, and one which is passed on to each and every one of us, and will be to many more in the future. To enjoy their work, it isn't essential to know the references, the influences, the inspirations, the history behind their project. The occasionally corny sentiments become touching, and their textures breathe something precious lost to us. The beauty of Maroon 5 is that their music's familiar constituent parts complement each other rather than cancelling themselves out like some awful musical soup wherein all the ingredients lose their flavour. With their series of emotional, delirious singles, their muse somehow manages to be both a celebration of the gleeful possibilities of making music in 21st century America and a stirring statement of the value of borrowing from the past to create a brighter, healthier present. There's a soulful beauty at the heart of all their finest work. Musically, the band at first appear to be treading a well-worn path. A bit of Stevie Wonder and Donny Hathaway here, a slice of Billy Joel there, a dash of Commodores over there, but the more you hear them, the more distinctive they become. And the fact that their mines of inspiration have been thoroughly worked before makes their ability to dig up something that genuinely sparkles all the more remarkable an achievement. Their tunes are accessible, hummable, catchy, and yet never facile or overfamiliar. Even the harder-edged rockers reward repeated exposure by effortlessly churning out hidden pockets of bruised melody. Witnessed live, they remain a fearsome proposition. When they click into a higher gear, the exhilaration meter goes right off the scale. They already have a catalogue to rival anyone at their stage of evolution. They have an unstoppable momentum that looks set to propel them to the higher echelons of rock history, the rarefied stratospheres afforded only the finest groups. Their live sets are special and mark out the boundaries of a higher sonic plane. Achingly sweet melodies, visceral axe work, loose-limbed rhythms, bounding bass lines, and yearning vocals are the vintage cheddar in a sandwich of inspirational noise. At their very best, Maroon 5 offer a heady distillation of every moment when it doesn't seem silly to place all your faith in something as flimsy as a chord progression or a romantic ballad. This wonderful group simply write complete, beautiful, and addictive songs that, given half a chance, will claim squatters' rights in your brain. You surrender to their charm, their love of a hook, and their utter lack of contrivance. This band are here to reclaim your faith in the power of simple, heartfelt, irony-free adult rock music. They do it better than anyone else making records right now.
We're from Los Angeles, California, except James from Lincoln, Nebraska.
Whoa.
I'm sorry. Lincoln, Nebraska.
Moved out to LA, you know.
Chased
with
his
a
dreams.
six string and a dream.
Adam Levine was always going to find his niche in music in some form or another. There was never any doubt about that. Growing up in Los Angeles, he got bitten by the bug early on, having his musical taste buds opened by early exposure to his parents' FM radio and record collection, and then ploughing his own furrow as a rock-mad youngster. He knew instinctively that nothing else mattered or appealed to him. The prospect of being chained to an ordinary 9-to-5 office job for most of his adult life filled him with dread, and as he developed an aptitude for singing and playing the guitar in his teens, he realised that this offered his escape route from all of that. The roots of Maroon 5 were actually in place when Adam was just 7 years old. He bonded with future band drummer Ryan Dusick in the playground, and this bond only grew and intensified through high school. Both guys spent as much of their spare time as possible checking out records, instruments, reading the music press, and playing other people's songs. This was their training for what was to follow. Adam became known throughout school for his intense love of music and his burgeoning skill as a performer. At the age of 14, he formed his own band called Cara's Flowers with Ryan, Jesse Carmichael on guitar, and Mickey Madden on bass. Fired up by the electrifying sound of heavy rock and post-grunge indie, they soon became the toast of their high school, though Ryan had already graduated by then. School friends since junior high, they attracted a strong and passionate following beyond their school gates. There wasn't another local band to match their dynamism and creativity. In Adam, Cara's Flowers had a charismatic frontman, a guitar wizard with a captivating strong voice and a strutting attitude. Jesse wove rich, insidious patterns with his axe. Mickey maintained a strong, insistent bottom-end pulse, and Ryan whacked the drum kit like a man possessed by John Bonham. Cara's Flowers were rooted in the alternative rock tradition of acts like Nada Surf and Weezer, peddling anthems for the Prozac Nation, alternately manic and melancholy. Like their neighbours, Heat Miser, they veered from jangly bright, squeeze-influenced pop to dark, brooding songs in the UK indie shoegazing vein that left your neck sore from so much forlorn groundward staring. They were named Cara's Flowers in honour of a girl at high school of that name, who all the guys fancied and worshipped. They even brought her flowers to her home on the night they decided to start the group. She was their muse, their object of lust, and their guiding light. Their high school days were full of incident. For instance, When they were making an anti-drugs video, the guys produced a tongue-in-cheek mock sequel to the Matt Dillon film Drugstore Cowboy. Jesse had to play a character who punched the side of another actor's face after escaping a stabbing, but he broke his hand while filming the scene. The rest of the group were dismissive of his cries of pain, but his hand swelled and they soon realised he was in a bad way, even though he refused to go to the doctor for days. Their first gig took place at the Natural Fudge Company, a bizarre hole-in-the-wall burlesque theatre. It was run by a creepy, shady woman, and there was a fatal car accident there on the night they performed. Their first official show was at the Whiskey in Los Angeles on September the 16th, 1995. A crowd of hundreds flocked to witness their local heroes' diverse brew of pop, punk and rock. The band's vibrant energy and seamless interplay made the audience sit up and take notice. School kids, teenagers, college students and rockers alike were warmly receptive to Cara's Flowers and their hypnotic, barnstorming sound. They didn't believe in doing anything by halves. Every guitar riff was savage, scabrous and intense. Every vocal was lung-bursting and incandescent. Live, they were a fearsome proposition. Life was looking good for Adam and the guys. Local interest and acclaim would surely be followed by wider attention.
When I was 11, Motley Crue. But Mickey actually really helped me out with that little problem I had. Because it was weird. I loved Motley Crue and Poison and all those hair bands. I worshipped them, and Mickey came along and introduced me to like Bowie and Queen, and these were all foreign to me. So he got me and started kind of molding my taste.
Bolstered by a word-of-mouth following and a sequence of glistening reviews in the local press, Cara's Flowers set about recording their debut album and unleashing their message on the world at large. At the precocious age of 17, Adam and the guys hooked up with the legendary producer Rob Cavallo of Green Day and Michelle Branch of Goo Goo Dolls infamy. Armed with a wealth of original material in a guitar-heavy indie rock style, they cut the cult album The Fourth World for Reprise Records, who'd seen their potential at live shows. The album is a promising, interesting and rewarding listen, but to contemporary ears, it sounds slightly generic and indistinct. At the time, though, it received a slew of positive notices and helped the group gain a significant amount of exposure around California and beyond. Kids were eagerly searching for something guitar-based and familiar, with a roll call of established college rock influences, but which wielded a modern sensibility and spoke to today's generation. Cara's Flowers had one foot in the 70s riff rock era, another in the post-grunge slacker scene, without being cosily identified with either. The album is a rollicking, raucous, confident and beguiling set of songs, imbued with a sense of swaggering self-assurance and a relaxed yet tight musicality that knows its own limits. Everyone sounds as though they're having a good time in the studio, and, though the songs sometimes sound too polished, there is enough vitality, surprise and invention here to warrant further investigation. Released in August 1997, The Fourth World boasts a series of excellent, deftly constructed songs exploding with pop-savvy hooks. Soap Disco raises the hairs on the back of your neck. Captain Splendid melts your heart, and To Her With Love is delicious. Other tunes such as My Ocean Blue, The Never Saga, Future Kid and Oliver are infused with the eagerness of youth and the immediacy of any good guitar pop. Cara's Flowers were the name on everyone's lips in Los Angeles, and it seemed they could do no wrong. The album was a big success with the college market, and it became the ubiquitous accessory of choice for any discerning hip young Californite. They set out on the road to plug their disc, performing with groups like Real Big Fish and Goldfinger to enthusiastic audiences. The Cara's Flowers gospel was being spread far and wide. However, a change of direction was looming ahead. By 1999, the group's sound had grown unfashionable, and both Reprise and the guys themselves had outgrown their music. It was fine for 1997, but things had changed. People's priorities and ideas had altered and music had moved on. The band themselves had got stuck in a rut, unsure of where to take it next, and the label had grown weary of their failure to capitalise on their initial promise and push their thing to the next level. This period was clouded in uncertainty and self-doubt. Cara's Flowers were released from their Reprise contract in 1999, and they had to reconsider their future. Disappointed by their failure to realise their ambitions and uncertain of what to do, they went their separate ways and pursued university study. Ryan and Mickey studied in California at UCLA, but Adam and Jesse left LA for the attractions of New York. In New York, Adam and Jesse stumbled upon the vital inspiration and impetus for a new band, one which would leave all their Cara's Flowers baggage at the door and open up a whole new world of creative possibility.
That was our first kind of drummer that Mickey and I basically auditioned. His name was Eric Rollet. Remember? And he came over and we were really excited. And because Mickey had drums, which automatically is very cool.
Right.
Gets anybody over there, even if they're not very good at playing the drums. And he was such a dork. He came over and he put on these headphones. Remember we put on the drumming headphones? And he was like, I can't play unless I wear my headphones. And I had them in this special case. We were like, what are you doing, man? That was so not rock and roll.
With the immediate future of the quartet in some doubt, Adam and Jesse found their plan B in the dormitories of State University of New York. On their road to Damascus, they uncovered a new style of music to which they hadn't previously been exposed: soul. Up to this point, the strongest reference points for the band had all been classic white rock artists like the Beatles, Bob Dylan, Simon & Garfunkel, the Stones, Nirvana, and so on. Yet their experience at university in New York proved to be an educational one in the musical sense, as they soaked up the gospel, funk and soul sounds blasting out from the university residences. Adam and Jesse had never listened to Black American soul, but they were immediately blown away by its raw intensity, emotional depth and lyrical sophistication. They were hungry to learn more and realised that they had to incorporate this into their new band's sonic palette. Artists such as Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway, Aretha Franklin, Al Green, Marvin Gaye, Missy Elliott, Biggie Smalls, Alia, Jay-Z and Kool and the Gang provided a whole new source of inspiration for their next project. The music of Black America was rough, raw, thrilling, sometimes painful, but always sincere. Men and women were singing about their feelings, directly, without artifice or inhibition. The instrumentation and arrangements were exactly what the songs demanded. There were melodies to make your hair stand on end and harmonies that gave the candid lyrics frightening depth and pressing urgency. There were songs about everything, sometimes incredibly simple, sometimes very complicated, about love, yearning and desire, about infidelity, loss and heartbreak. Astonishing, terrifying, consoling and amazing, these artists and songs were life-changing for the band. Adam knew at a gut level that this is what he wanted to do, so he and Jesse headed back to California to hook up with Ryan and Mickey. The lead singer made a conscious effort to polish his vocal style and approximate the delivery of his new heroes. Meanwhile, Jesse traded in his six-string for keyboards, and suddenly Cara's Flowers realised their collegiate post-grunge sound was redundant. Jesse began checking out authentic black jazz music as well as soul, R&B and hip-hop, adding jazz flavours to the group's sound. Informed by the likes of Herbie Hancock, McCoy Tyner, Ramsey Lewis and Stanley Cowell, his mellifluous harmonic style proved a pivotal influence on the new Cara's Flowers formula. Adam became immersed in booming hip-hop, sultry R&B and lush soul, and pushed himself to his vocal limits with his new range. When the quartet regrouped in LA, they were all invigorated by an assortment of black musical styles and were soon effortlessly injecting their high-octane rock and roll with a groove-tinged dose of funk. They all realised that their previous incarnation had been far too uptight, white and musically predictable. By absorbing the best of soul, they were freeing themselves from the tyranny of conservative rock scholarship and the overbearing quasi-racist orthodoxy of accepted rock cool. By incorporating new ideas and having access to state-of-the-art modern technology, they could reinvent themselves as funk soul brothers of the new millennium. There seemed to be no limits to where they could take their new sound. With a new aesthetic came a new, equally silly name, Maroon 5, and the addition of a new fifth member, namely James Valentine. He came into the fray to add another layer of swooning electric guitar. James had been good friends with John Mayer since meeting him at a summer guitar camp when they were 17 after high school. They'd written some left-field instrumental fusion jams together over a period of 2 years. The New Look group shared their inhibitions and their old baggage, resulting in a funk-laden hybrid of soul and rock that recalls the likes of Lenny Kravitz, Jamiroquai and the softer elements of NERD. Scratchy guitars are melded with the smooth melodic voice of Adam and the slippery funky drums of Ryan. The new sonic formula represents a huge departure for the guys and offers a wealth of musical possibilities. After years of experimentation and exploration, the unique fusion of rock, R&B and soul emerged that now defines Maroon 5. Hints of folk, urban styles and funk were gradually woven through the alternative rock fabric that was the band's musical base. Adam studied the songwriting of soul greats like Stevie Wonder and Smokey Robinson to push himself to the highest level. As the New Look Maroon 5 headed out on tour, they soon attracted attention from a host of interested record labels. They spent a couple of years writing songs in this new soul rock idiom, tweaking their rough edges and playing various musical showcases for senior executives at many major labels in and around Los Angeles and New York. A new independent label based in New York, Octone Records, caught one of those shows and liked what they saw. The company was distributed by BMG Music Entertainment and had a joint venture deal with Clive Davis and J Records. In 2001, Maroon 5 signed to Octone, who had a specific strategy in mind for their new charges. Slow, deliberate releases with the intention of giving the group exposure while at the same time avoiding commercial saturation. Maroon 5 were in the ascendancy, creating waves of anticipation for the first fruit of their Octone sessions. The alternative music community waited with bated breath for their new outpourings on vinyl.
That's so awesome. That's the coolest thing to hear ever. Because that's what we wanted. We wanted to be like, bands. But to think they were actually like a rock and roll band.
New material like This Love, Not Coming Home and Sunday Morning reflected Adam's overwhelming fascination with deep soul music and its emotional intensity. As he became immersed in this style, the songs kept flowing with barely time to pause for breath. Stevie Wonder became a totemic figure for Adam, who strove to produce songs as economical, expressive, honest and visionary as the Blind Genius. His seemingly effortless gift for melody and his facility with arrangements made their mark on the Maroon 5 leader and served as an incentive to try to create music as good. In 2001, the quintet entered the studio with esteemed production and mixing maestro Matt Wallace of Faith No More, The Replacements, Train, Third Eye Blind and Blues Traveler fame. They cut their debut album with him in Los Angeles at Rumbo Recorders, the same studio where classic artists as Stone Temple Pilots, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, The Smashing Pumpkins, John Mellencamp and Guns N' Roses had cut important albums. The wonderful Songs About Jane album emerged from these sessions in June 2002. Acclaimed by critics everywhere on its release, it soon nestled in end-of-year top 10 lists and gave the modern rock scene a well-deserved kick up the arse. Its exquisite production, yearning choruses and nagging melodies got under the skin and refused to budge. On Songs About Jane, Adam belts out tales of girlfriends, lust and disappointment over an insidious, shuffling mix of feel-good soul, powerful bass, searing guitars and funky rhythms. It's a warm, rich, beautifully constructed and arranged record, bristling with energy, impeccable musicianship, lovely tunes, and no little invention. It is an unashamed treat, a collection of heartfelt, elegant, shiver-inducing moments with barely a duff second in sight. Adam retains a composer's eye for detail throughout, which repays all your attention. The band cut loose and yet never opt for self-indulgence, and the songs take up residence in your memory bank with an almost indecent glee. Absent is any over-egging of the pudding, for there's no excess fat here at all. There's little studio trickery, no room for showboating among the musicians, no sensationalism or ego flaunting. Endearing, swooning, aching, intimate, at times demonic and heartbreaking, these pieces are worthy of Blue-Eyed Soul's finest voices, from Stevie Winwood to Donnie Fritz, Eddie Hinton or J.K. You surrender to their beauty and simplicity, and the music envelops your consciousness like the oral equivalent of an electric blanket. On this delicious record, Maroon 5 take the George Clinton dictum of, "If you free your mind, your ass will follow," quite literally. Introducing to nerdy student bedsit angst a whole new set of acquaintances, and putting on its party clothes to develop a sexed-up strut. The group's panache is infectious, and the album soon started rocking tour buses belonging to fans of John Mayer and Michelle Branch. Although one or two sniffy organs made rude comparisons with the likes of the Spin Doctors and Top Loader, missing the mark by miles, the album splashed itself all over the press and radio. Listening to colossal nuggets like Ace first single, Harder to Breathe, one is moved to invoke the ghosts of white soul rock titans like Rare Earth, who shared Maroon 5's obsession and infatuation with the very fabric of America's deepest black soul and funk traditions. Oozing charisma, self-confidence and emotional intensity, Songs About Jane is a mercurial achievement, boasting both stadium-sized, lighter-holding anthems aplenty and funky, head-nodding riff monsters. They could have regressed and put out an album that sounded like Cara's Flowers Volume 2, but they sound like a group who already had a sneaking suspicion they might be pretty damn good and on a mission to prove that to the rest of the world. The gargantuan Must Get Out is an atmospheric beauty that recalls prime U2 in their Joshua Tree pomp. The elegant Sunday Morning nestles comfortably between the Commodores' Easy and the Red Hot Chili Peppers' take on the same song, and The Sun reminds the listener of an even sprightlier Superstition by Stevie. Harder to Breathe is a pugnacious slab of riff-laden rock soul with the same sort of instinctive vibrancy that explains why metal and hip-hop make for such suitable bedfellows. It wears the influence of pioneers like Rare Earth, Flaming Ember, Funkadelic, Power of Zeus and Grand Funk Railroad like a badge. This Love does for Billy Joel what Cool G Rap and DJ Polo did on Road to the Riches, and Tangled transfers Stevie's trademark keyboard sound to electric guitar, while She Will Be Loved is bursting with pop hooks and utter devotion. The album is expertly written and produced, with a sophistication that makes you forget that it's still only the second record this group have actually made in their lives. Critics and pundits raced to sing its praises to the skies, proclaiming a distinctive, fresh, new voice in modern pop. Many were the commentators who opined how refreshing it was to find a white rock group with a different set of influences to the usual stock listed by cred-hungry young rockers who've had their ears bludgeoned by too much Stooges, Black Flag, Pixies and Strokes. The album's title is a homage to an ex-girlfriend of Adam's, who he'd previously spent a lot of time and energy pining over. She is his muse and inspiration for making music. The industry was in awe of Maroon 5 and couldn't wait for their next move. They didn't let the praise go to their heads though, regularly performing to sell-out crowds at many of Los Angeles' most creditable venues, such as the Viper Room, El Rey and House of Blues. They also landed prestigious support slots with Michelle Branch, Evan and Jaron, and Nika Costa. The rise of this talented group of musicians continued to gather pace.
I just work here, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I can't judge my art. So yeah, they loved it, I guess, and I didn't. But whatever. I guess now that it's on the radio, I think it's great. I've grown to like it. I think just it's actually one of my favorite songs on the record, but it took a long time to grow on me.
Despite the massive success and acclaim of Songs About Jane, it took some time for the group to capitalise on their new fame and conquer the singles charts. It took some 17 months for a single to hit the charts after the release of the album, by which time it had registered platinum sales. The wondrous Harder to Breathe single went top 10 in the charts and caused a major stir amongst radio and MTV. The song is a vicious, scabrous kiss-off to an old flame, containing snarled threats such as, "I have the tendency of getting very physical." It is also the joyful noise of one-time indie rockers feeling the blue-eyed funk and loving it. The sensitive machismo of Harder to Breathe makes for a compelling listen, as if we are party to the rage and torment swimming inside Adam's head at the time of his breakup with Jane. It chronicles his feelings of frustration with everything, including that of being forced by the record company to get songs done by a certain time. He actually ingested considerable amounts of speed in order to nail certain songs such as this and This Love. In retrospect, he's glad he was given that pressure, as it yielded two of their finest tunes. The success of the single led to numerous promotional offers in the media, whether it be VH1, MTV or the press. Everyone in the media wanted a piece of their action. They were swamped with requests for interviews. This was followed in turn by the release of the single This Love, which became another top 10 smash. Unleashed in April 2004, it starts off like Baby One More Time, and then relaxes into a sensual, smooth, heart-rippling, soul style redolent of Lenny Kravitz's classic It Ain't Over Till It's Over, itself a painstakingly accurate homage to the sound of Curtis Mayfield of the early 1970s. Complete with crazy falsetto and masterful production, it reaches the parts most modern R&B misses by miles. This song is a paean to his girlfriend at the time of writing. The Sophie Muller video features Adam cavorting half naked on a bed with his current girlfriend Kelly. It shows his zen-like calm and indifference to making a spectacle of his private life. Meanwhile, the group's publicist tried to drum up some media interest in the rumours suggesting that actress Natalie Portman was on good terms with Adam, which turned out to be complete fabrication. The level of interest in the band was rocketing as they moved closer to becoming household names. They didn't rest on their laurels though, and kept writing new material and touring. They performed to packed, enthusiastic audiences alongside Train and Sheryl Crow on the Jeep World Outside tour. Adam was generating many press cuttings, speculating upon his wild partying, his women, and his astonishing songwriting, guitar work, and vocal ability. There was just no stopping Maroon 5.
Yeah, Adam has always had an older woman fantasy, and one of his favorite movies is The Graduate. Great movie. So that sort of served as the theme for this video, and I think this is probably the last time that we're going to let Adam go out on his rampage like that with a hot woman in the video. The next time it's going to be a whole group project.
In August 2004, Maroon 5 issued She Will Be Loved as the third single from the Songs About Jane album. This woozy LA soul rock gem drips sensuality and impassioned delivery as the narrator drives for miles and miles to stand in the pouring rain outside his long-term girlfriend's house before explaining the key to a successful relationship: it's compromise. By the finale, he is assuring us that he will love his beloved forevermore. The verses on this cut are pretty little compositions of acoustic guitar and dainty cymbal and hi-hat, such as the likes of singer-songwriter Damien Rice might write, in contrast to the chorus, which boasts a booty-shaking radio anthem. The song is actually about Adam's friend Sam and his strange real-life relationship with his girlfriend. It is a mellow, laid-back piano ballad of pop genius. Meanwhile, after spending 111 weeks on the market, Songs About Jane re-entered the Billboard Top 10, and the guys turned to the hottest urban producer of the moment, Kanye West, to create a hip-hop mix of This Love. They also hit the studio to contribute a new song, Woman, for the impending Spider-Woman 2 soundtrack. They joined the likes of Jet and Hoobastank on the album, spreading their appeal to another audience. The guys joined John Mayer on tour in August 2004, performing swooning, mostly mid-tempo sets that had the audiences in a frenzy. They played storming versions of Bill Withers' Ain't No Sunshine and AC/DC's Highway to Hell, with Ryan guesting on electric guitar. Also in August, they made chart history by topping the first ever British online chart. They beat off competition from The Streets, The 411 and Shapeshifters to hit the top spot in Virgin Radio's Napster online music chart. They kept their hand in by recording a couple of covers for compilation albums. They cut a version of Everyday People for a Sly Stone tribute album, and then made a stab at Pure Imagination from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory for an Eddie Vedder collection to raise money for children. They also planned a fundraising show to be held at Los Angeles' Troubadour Club in honour of a friend who'd had a freak brain aneurysm. The pressure of 3 years of constant touring finally caught up with drummer Ryan Dusick, who suffered from a trapped nerve throughout the summer from playing the drums too much. Matt Flynn of Gavin DeGraw fame filled in admirably whilst Ryan took a much-needed break. Maroon 5 set up Sunday Morning as the fourth single to be released from the debut album. The oldest song on the record, this lilting, piano-driven gem is an obvious candidate for sustained radio airplay and chart smash status. Overtly influenced by the Commodores and Stevie Wonder, it is a beautiful, serene piece of work that puts a spring in the listener's step. The group toured through to the end of November 2004, taking in West Springfield, Cambridge, Nottingham, Brixton, Auckland, Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne, Leeds, Brisbane, Manchester and Glasgow. They continued to write new material on the road and were booked in for studio time in early 2005, when recording for a second album would commence.
A British show called The Office. It is the funniest show I've ever seen. It's like Spinal Tap except set in an office, and it's just hilarious.
So who are the artists who've provided Maroon 5 with their influences and inspirations? Which pivotal musicians won the hearts and souls and turned them into the unit-shifting artistic force they are today? As youngsters and teenagers, the sounds of the Beatles, the Police, Nirvana, Bob Dylan and Simon and Garfunkel fueled their dreams of music making. And when Cara's Flowers were formed, the guys were enthralled to the alternative rock sound of post-grunge America. Their primary formative influences were all white guitar acts. The group's seminal moment arrived when Jesse and Adam absorbed the wealth of black American music emanating from their fellow students' dormitories in New York. From there on, funk, soul, jazz, hip-hop and R&B became the mainstays of their musical diet. For Adam in particular, Stevie Wonder proved the catalyst for their new way of working following the demise of Cara's Flowers. His masterful array of styles, sun-kissed way with a melody, and direct sentiment all acted as signposts for the new band's creative future. Adam was particularly taken by Stevie's candour in dealing with the expression of love for another person. During that critical period of realignment, the group were fired up by the magnificent sounds of urban black America and were desperate to assimilate some of that intensity into their own records. Missy Elliott, Jay-Z, Nas, Donny Hathaway, Alia and Curtis Mayfield were eagerly listened to and consumed with bundles of passion and interest. White boys with guitars playing noisy rock songs about not getting a girl had ceased to wield any appeal for Maroon 5, and the soul music they were absorbing seemed to be adult, grown-up people's music. Its concerns were serious, universal and profound, delivered with immense power, emotion and faith. Recently, another contemporary American band with equally visionary ideas about mixing black with white styles has been the Neptunes duo of Chad and Farrell from NERD. These producers have become a massive influence on the whole band, with Adam declaring that Pharrell Williams is as big a hero for him as Stevie Wonder. Their fusions of white rock, soft balladry, hip-hop and R&B have won them many admirers, and Adam has expressed a desire to work with them on the group's next album. Maroon 5 lock into a period of time where honeyed soul and sophisticated white soft rock ruled the FM airwaves, namely the early to mid-1970s, and it is this period which fires NERD and themselves to create music for now. On Maroon 5 records, you can detect the influence of AOR staples like Billy Joel and Steely Dan, as much as that of the Delphonics, the Detroit Emeralds and the Isley Brothers. Despite being rooted in this old-time music, Maroon 5 are adept at finding their own voice and aren't in any way strangled by their influence. Rather, they borrow heavily from the past to produce contemporary sounds that transcend the sum of those influences and inspirations.
I had this crush on Eliza Dushku, and I had the opportunity to meet her backstage at one of our shows when we were playing with John Mayer. But I don't know. I think I blew it. I don't know. I only got to talk to her for a second, and the bus left. I didn't make it happen.
But what is it that makes Maroon 5 tick? What is it that moves them and preoccupies them? And where do they stand in the canon of modern rock and roll? The group are a close-knit family unit, built upon years and years of friendship and comradeship. They look out for each other and share a bond that's irresistible. Adam and Ryan have been friends for about 20 years, and all of the original quartet have known each other since junior high. Nothing could easily dislodge their fraternity. Arguments are few and far between. However, the last major one was between Adam and James, and concerned a snowboard that was left in LA. Adam is ultra mellow and doesn't allow himself to get wound up by events that are beyond his control. He radiates a zen-like calm and doesn't dwell on anything, preferring to move on instantly. He detaches himself from reality, which can infuriate sometimes, but mainly elicits admiration bordering on awe. He doesn't own many clothes or material possessions and doesn't seem to care much when he loses things. When it comes to his art, though, he couldn't be more animated and committed. He believes strongly in feeding your private experiences into the music and argues that all good artists are driven by conflict and the battle of the sexes. He identifies with the Frodo character from Lord of the Rings and loves the British reality sitcom The Office. He is remarkably unaffected by fame and attention, but has warned that he won't be doing this forever. He is determined to go out on top, just like the Beatles, the Jam and the Police. He isn't taken by the constant touring involved in keeping a mega-selling act at the forefront of popular music. James is a gadget freak who adores his iPod and his headphone amp, which he can use to play his guitar at full volume in hotel rooms on tour. He's scathing about television interviewers who don't do their research or even have any interest in music. He loves the Lord of the Rings DVDs. Ryan is laid back and nonplussed by all the attention surrounding the group. However, he finds Adam's enviable detachment perplexing and superhuman. Mickey is mellow and unfazed by the media intrusion and relaxes by watching DVDs, in particular The Office, The Family Guy and Mr. Show. He also loves his iPod and always carries a stack of books around with him. Jesse keeps himself to himself and likes to watch DVDs on the tour bus. He's a resolute, cheerful person who can go crazy at times. As a unit, all 5 members feel they keep sane by having the others keeping them in check. They all have serious bullshit detectors, which clamp down on any big-headed arrogance or ego-tripping. Where do they stand in the grand scheme of things, though? Have they done enough to warrant inclusion in the canon of rock cool? They've recorded a debut album of explosive brilliance that adds a new slant to guitar-based rock, something that hasn't happened since the grunge explosion of the early 1990s. One might carp that a single album into a career is barely enough to justify the odd magazine feature, let alone claims of all-conquering greatness. But very few would disagree that the Stone Roses or Television's debut albums deserve their exalted status. Neither of these bands matched the genius of their first records, and who's to say Maroon 5 will or won't? But for the moment, Songs About Jane stands as a colossal achievement, a singular force, a pleasurable work of popular art that invites comparison with any other acclaimed debut.
No, I was actually in Utah, and we were on tour. But all my family lives there. And I was actually, my family sort of set me up with this girl, and I was sort of like on a date with her. And I turned on the radio, and Harder to Breathe came on. I was like, yeah, no big deal.
Maroon 5 have carved out a niche for themselves in modern rock and pop, establishing an unassailable momentum that shows no sign of abating. There exists a yawning chasm between them and their immediate contemporaries. They operate in a field of their own, having brought soul back into the rock and roll equation and introduced emotional depth to that most shallow of pleasures, white boy guitar rock. It seems unlikely that Maroon 5's music will become lost in the mists of time. They've already shown they're here for the long haul, evading the transient ephemera of much of today's pop market. In an era which seems to reward those who shout the loudest, regardless of inherent talent, Maroon 5 stand for substance, style, glamour and intelligence. So long as punters are interested in hearing the sound of a life-affirming voice to a heavenly guitar melody, a killer bass line and an impassioned drum beat, then their position in rock's canon seems assured. It may be easy to dismiss Maroon 5's change of musical direction as an uneasy about turn, a mixture of knee-jerk conservatism and desperation. But what's ultimately enduring about their sound is Adam's clear-eyed ability to frame universal emotions and situations in the iron grip of his storytelling. Over and over again, he allows himself to languish in a yearning for some vanished perfect moment, some romantic idyll, his own penchant for a past relationship. It's as if the debut album is both a stern examination of the power and shortcomings of memory, and both satire and celebration of that nostalgia for romantic bliss. Much of their music possesses a timeless, evergreen, warming on a winter night quality, and its pronouncements on love, life and loss offer comfort and sanctuary. There comes a time when recognising a certain quality of songwriting above all other voguish benchmarks becomes the most important facet of musical appraisal. With this in mind, this group's grasp of melody and lyric is frequently staggering. Adam's mastery of telling stories through song pulls you into his world. The personal intimacy of his narratives is paramount. Rarely have the warm waves of keyboards, fitted around thundering, funky drums and jet-propelled bass, set to subtle, longing explorations of love, sounded so beautiful and serious. And when you remember the title of the album they've made, you're not surprised. It shows us a songwriter reaching a complete understanding of longing and desire and the potency of music's romantic charge. Adam's new improved soulful vocals give the music that extra blue-eyed soul kick, casting mesmerising spells on the listener and weaving equal intimacy and inspiration. Ringing a spectrum of emotions from his poignant observations of fleeting moments, his delicate, intricate songs are potent, precious things indeed. They're never mawkish, saccharine or lachrymose, as they contain self-awareness, grit and genuine insight. In sticking to their singular, almost old-fashioned agenda and ignoring trends, they have resisted easy pigeonholing and have raised the standard of contemporary American music. They have gatecrashed the mainstream with pleasure, nonchalance, surprise and no little talent. They hadn't contemplated being the most exciting new band in the world. They still don't, but others find that mantle increasingly hard to disprove. They've defined their own niche in music without ever compromising or diluting their innate populism and artistry. Their music gives us a sure sense that the US is a richer place than we had guessed, that it has possibilities we are only beginning to perceive. In their unique blend of rock instruments and soul sensibility, in the totally distinctive blue-eyed soul voice, in the tender longing and twisted lyrics, there is an ambiguity that opens up the world with real force. These songs capture a yearning for love and meaning, and the fact of displacement that colours our lives. We think that Maroon 5's music is the most obvious parallel with our own hopes, ambitions and doubts, and we're right to think so. Flowing through these superior songs are spirits of desire, carnality, rebellion and awe, raw excitement, good sex, open humour, a keen intelligence, a determination to locate drama in everyday life. Their tunes make us feel part of their adventure. In contrast to many luminaries who think wielding a guitar like an axe and hollering noisily amounts to art, Maroon 5 work with much greater sophistication and intelligence. Instead of merely orchestrating their confessions, they transform them into a devastating tour de force. Sublime, sensuous, gritty, flowing with vision, the catalogue is an expertly crafted and brilliantly performed review of failure, hope, despair, anguish and lust. The confessions of a man speaking for more than himself, who's been trapped by limits whose existence he once would not even admit to, let alone respect. The pieces on Songs About Jane literally turn black music and rock music inside out with their flash, innovation and daring, possessing all the drive and machinery of a big truck. The songs gather up all the devastation of lost love and slowly drive it home, grind it in and fade it out. This music defines the inner world of the lead singer, a reality of day-to-day sameness and deadening desolation. As you listen, you begin to hear what the group are hearing. Every bass throb or vocal styling takes on a greater force. Maroon 5's music matters because it doesn't just define a state of mind, it makes that state of mind real. Its sensibility is sharp enough to frame the mass of pop music, shuffle its impact, jar the listener, and put an edge on the easy way out that has not really been won. It takes unexpected twists and turns and leaves the listener gasping for more of the same. It isn't casual music, and its demands are not casual. It is a music of extraordinary depth and power, with Maroon 5 questioning their earlier music and improving upon it in spades. This work is deeply personal, innovative and tough, literate and direct in its words, a refusal of their past and an unflinching statement about their present. This remarkable group have had the courage to remake themselves on terms they had defined, damn those terms and invented new ones. They've recognised the expectations of their audience and the modern rock climate and moved to subvert them. Songs About Jane, with its cocksure swagger and inherent soulfulness, stands as a quiet, open act of rebellion. It is a rebellion, the resolution of which depends as much on the audience as it does on Maroon 5, and a rebellion that deserves respect and gratitude. They could have gone on churning out college boy rock for years and years, but instead took a chance on their audience and their immediate future. It could have all gone awry, but their bravery has paid off handsomely. They use the familiarity of music to set us in the moods and situations the songs automatically call up. We respond in predictable ways to the music, and as we do, Adam's words and his singing pull us in other directions or shift the story just enough to make it fresh, new and unorthodox. The music defines for us the way we want things to be, and then he tells us how it is for him. The tension that arises is never facile, because the ideals the music evokes are real to him too, and because he so clearly loves the music itself, wrapped up in the spirit of Stevie, Curtis, Marvin and Missy. Both ambitious and original, Maroon 5 display innate fine taste and a sensitivity that mark them out as heirs to the throne of those magnificent white soul bands such as Rare Earth and the Spencer Davis Group. The displaced anger, the warmth and the range of their material, the power and the precision of the performances make for exhilarating listening. Their tiny output is made of the kind of stuff that sets new parameters as to what is plausible from a blue-eyed soul rock group operating in the 21st century. Displaying an expressive, hallucinatory intensity that borders on madness, They have a happy knack of working their way into your consciousness with stealth and grace. By turns intimate and delicate, melancholic and majestic, invigorating and raucous, Maroon 5 have come to take us away from the commonplace, the standard, the conventional, and inject the guitar, bass, drums format with some variation, some excitement, some sexiness, some drama. These episodes of Love Won and Lost stone the soul and trample all over the customary tedium generated by legions of bedwetting indie groups dressed in black and shying away from real life. Adam Levine remains a compelling presence, a frontman caught in the travails of his lost love, penning stricken tales of breaking hearts and bleeding souls. His poetic vignettes move with masterful deftness. There really is no other band around making this decidedly un-voguish sound, no other artist willing to embrace a wider tradition in order to make their own music infinitely more interesting. There is beauty and truth embedded in all of these grooves. Whether or not this special unit of music obsessives can maintain their impeccable run of form and come up with a sophomore album to rival their first smash hit is open to question. But on the evidence presented thus far, there would seem to be no stopping them. They clearly have it in them to reproduce the magic they've generated so far, and probably are capable of transcending the white soul rock tag to produce a more left-field sound that stretches the parameters and creates something totally new, in the same way that Massive Attack transcended their hip-hop roots to patent the early to mid-1990s trip-hop style in Britain. They might take this on board, or they might finely tune and hone to dazzling perfection what they already have. The next few years promise to be bountiful.
Thank you for buying Maximum Maroon 5. We hope you enjoyed it. Watch out for further titles on Chrome Dreams coming up soon. If you did enjoy it or have any comments or suggestions, write to us at Chrome Dreams, PO Box 230, New Malden, Surrey, UK, KT36YY, or email on mail@chromedreams.co.uk. Details of our full catalogue are listed on our website at www.chromedreams.co.uk. Thanks again for listening, and goodbye for now.